11. The Dying Enlightenment. Position paper number 141, August 1991. About a year ago, a man told me of his very great bewilderment over events in Southeast Asia. He had worked in that area most of his long life, and he knew it well in the colonial era especially. Now, there were women prime ministers in one country after another, and it baffled him. Women in such places of power went against the cultures of those countries. He himself had no concern whatsoever over who ruled, whether a queen or a woman as prime minister. But how could this happen in Southeast Asia? It was a good question, and a very important one. To understand the answer, we must note at the beginning that there is a vast gap between the rulers and the ruled in these countries. Many of the rulers, bureaucrats and top military men, have had a Western education. Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, and other such universities are familiar places to them. They reflect the world of the Enlightenment, of rationalism, of feminism, and more. They are, in some respects, closer to the leaders of Europe and the United States than to their own people. They are an elite group controlling politics, education, and almost all the superimposed structures of life. They represent the culture of the Enlightenment. Now, when Christianity entered the Roman Empire, it reached people of all classes, the slaves and the wealthy, the ignorant and the philosophers. Christianity's threat to Rome was precisely this Catholicity or universality of appeal. Had it been merely a slave religion, it would have been easily controlled. Charles Norris Cochrane, in Christianity and Classical Culture, shows how Christian philosophers challenged and defeated their pagan counterparts. The same was not true of the Enlightenment. It was self-consciously an elite movement. Various scholars, notably Louis V. Breadfold in The Brave New World of the Enlightenment, 1961, have documented its nature and beliefs. The three great expressions of Enlightenment philosophy have been the French Revolution, Hegel and Darwin and the mythology of evolution, and the Russian Revolution and its worldwide impact. First, Enlightenment philosophy rejected history in the past in favor of reason. The past, especially religion, must be wiped out. Whether in politics or in education, a studied ruthlessness was insisted on. The French Revolution decreed a new calendar and a new year one. Christ's birth was to be replaced by the birth of the Revolution. Second, institutions and customs inherited from the past had to give way to reason and science. Wisdom now rested with the Enlightenment elite. Religion, marriage, and the family had to be supplanted by the state. The state was seen as man's vehicle of salvation. Third, the Christian doctrine of man as a sinner was dropped. Man's nature was neutral, if not good. Education can remake man into a true man, and it can perfect society, it was held. This meant status intervention into every field. It also meant that Christianity is the great enemy, although all religions are treated with disdain. Fourth, the rule of society must be in the hands of the enlightened ones, the elite. These are the new philosopher kings, scientists, educators, politicians, and bureaucrats. As a result, power in most states has quietly been shifted to a non-elected elite created by the state to govern men and to rule them by regulations rather than by law. Fifth, basic to this faith is that man and society must be humanistic, not Christian. Step by step, education has been made a humanistic establishment of religion and anti-Christian. Sixth, science must replace religion as the source of judgment and authority. Religious meaning is replaced by scientific methodology. Truth gives way to pragmatism. Seventh, biblical view of sin and punishment are replaced with psychotherapy. The cure of souls becomes a scientific rather than a religious concern. Eighth, conscription came in with the French Revolution. The professional army is replaced with a state-created army and a hold on all youth. Ninth, foreign policy is given priority over domestic or internal affairs because a one-world order is the goal. Hitler spoke of a new world order. So too do Gorbachev and George Bush. The goal of politics has a world scope, not a local one. 10th, the new God is man, or humanity, and the goal is to be truly human, which means to be stripped of all religions and moral standards and faith. 11th, the world's economic problem is seen as one of distribution, not production. 12th, power is centralized in the state. 13th, reality is seen as basically impersonal, thus ruling out the God of Scripture. 14th, the new established church becomes the state school. 15th, there is an increasing control over private property and a virtual confiscation. All this I discussed in This Independent Republic, 1964. In 1887, a German professor of law, Rudolf Sohm, in his Outlines of Church History, gave a brief summary of the meaning of the Enlightenment. He used the older name, the Illumination. The goal of the Illumination was this: a natural law, a natural state, and a natural religion shone as the great ideals of the intellectual horizon and carried away the world of the 18th century in a movement of passionate endeavour. These battles prepared the way for the rise of modern humanity. Page 195. According to Sohm, the great practical result of the Illumination were the destruction of the Jesuit order, the foundation of the omnipotent authority of the state, and the idea of toleration. Page 197. This Enlightenment idea of toleration applied to religion because it was believed to be not worth fighting about. Intolerance was transferred to politics. It has meant the reign of terror, slave labour camps, and an increasing media attack on all who have no use for the world of the Enlightenment. The United States has a curious part in all of this. It is a nation of immigrants. In my hometown, in only a very small number of homes was English the native tongue. Most spoke Swedish, some Danish, Portuguese, Armenian, and Italian. Whether they came here with college and university education, as my parents did, or without it, the Enlightenment world was foreign to them, as it is to most of the peoples of Southeast Asia. The Enlightenment rules on the top, especially in politics, education, and the sciences. And a people, bewildered and restless, exist all around them. They resent the direction of things. It is no wonder that in the United States, close to 40% of all children are in Christian or home schools. This is a major revolution against the world of the Enlightenment, and it will not go away. In some countries, as in Mexico, the gap between the Enlightenment leaders and the resentful people is a growing and potentially explosive one. Law is the foundation of society, and the nature of the law depends on the religion it expresses, because law is religious. It is a religious and moral judgment concerning good and evil, right and wrong. So, in discussing the origin of law, said that the 18th century shifted it from God to man. It was a social contract, a deliberate and conscious choice made by free men whereby they passed from a state of nature into a political and legal state. Later scholars based law on a national instinct or on folk wisdom. Law was thus a natural development, not a revealed decree. Pages 216 and 217. This emphasis on the natural origins of law denied all ultimate meaning and morality. It meant that law could be what the state decreed it to be, and this is the fundamental aspect of modern law. It is also the basic ingredient of totalitarianism. There is, then, no appeal against the finality of law decreed by the omnipotent state. We are now in what may well be history's major crisis. The world of the Enlightenment controls our politics, state schools, entertainment and media. It is now becoming aggressively intolerant in more countries than one. It should not surprise us that the Enlightenment elites such as Gorbachev and Bush should draw together against the Baltic captive states, Georgia, Armenia, and other such peoples. They want more centralized power for their Enlightenment faith to triumph in a new world order. The growing decentralizing forces are a witness to their blindness. The modern school and the media stress self-realization as the goal for man. The countless enclaves of non-Enlightenment culture in the United States and abroad stress family unity and mutual help. In the United States, church and family are still, in spite of all status assaults, the greatest welfare agencies caring for their own. The church and the family are recapturing education from the state. Two differing cultures are clearly at war. The state commands vast powers today, but, like dying Rome, it is increasingly at war with its own people. The world of the Enlightenment is dying, bitterly, painfully, and vengefully, but it is dying all the same. Except the Lord build a house, they labour in vain that build it. Except the Lord keep the city, the watchman waketh but in vain. Psalm 127, verse 1.